Welcome to the very first episode of SHL History for Noobs. I am Sopath, and I am joined by...
MB Hockey 5.
And this is hopefully an ongoing series that we're going to be able to continue, with the premise being that neither of us are really experienced with the history of this league. So for the most part, we're finding out about all of the important information regarding the history for the very first time together. And I find it to be a really interesting thing that could be helpful for newer players who are coming along and older players to hear from stuff that they've probably already experienced, because we're trying to have a guest on for, at the very least, most of these episodes, so that we can have some kind of expert opinion as to how these events transpired. And for today, we do have a guest, but he'll be joining us for the second half of this. For now, it's just going to be me and MB Hockey 5. And I've actually done some research into this because I wanted us to have that experience that of what the podcast will be about. So we're going to talk about something very, very special to me. So, Hockey, do you know what the worst losing streak in North American sports is?
Like in regular season?
Like in real life, regular season.
Any sport. It's gotta be in basketball, man. I'm gonna guess 20. Oh wait, no, maybe baseball. I'm gonna guess 22 games.
That would be incorrect. It's actually, if I recall correctly, a tie between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Philadelphia 76ers at 26 losses in a row.
Oh my gosh.
Of course, with the Buccaneers, that was losing their entire first season, and then 12 of their first 14 games in their second season. But Hockey, today I'm going to bring you something even more amazing than that.
Okay.
Yeah, Hockey. We're going to talk about what might be the worst SHL team ever.
Oh my gosh. Worse than 26.
Worse than 26. So, Hockey, just so you know, do you know how many games are in an SHL season?
No, I'm guessing every team plays every team twice. That's my just best guess.
I don't know how many times they play every team, but they play 50 games in a season.
Oh wow.
And the topic of today is the season 54 Tampa Bay Barracuda.
That was very recent.
Yeah, it was literally like...
I thought it was like maybe some growing pain at the start of the website, maybe.
No, I believe me, like at first, like I was really thinking about looking around for something, like when I wanted to think of an introductory topic to this podcast. I did kind of want to do something old, but I also wanted it to be about this team, and I just couldn't help it. So this is the first episode. It was something that happened only 2 seasons ago. So everybody who is on the site is largely familiar with this. And stay tuned for the second half. I think you'll like our guest. But the Tampa Bay Barracuda, Hockey, they lost 50 games in a row.
What? So they went 0-50.
They went 0-50, Hockey. Like this.
How?
This might quite possibly be the most garbage team ever, but it's really hard to explain why they were so bad. But I will say, I say this, it does make some level of sense, because Tampa Bay is a team that technically has been around since season 1, but they've moved, I believe, 4 times.
So yeah, they just changed names.
Yeah, they were originally like the Wisconsin Monarchs. Then they moved to Vancouver. Then they moved to Vegas, and then they moved to Seattle in season 16. And then they had this. They had the same GM for about 20 seasons, or actually, it was less than 20 seasons. And then everything just went to shit. They had a new GM every 2 to 3 years. From the moment they became, from the moment their first GM as the Seattle Riot left, all the way up until they moved to Tampa. So it's actually quite the tragic story of just GMs coming to Seattle, giving up in 3 seasons, and then leaving, and then just like pushing the dumpster fire down the road. So the last winning season in franchise history was thankfully actually under Tampa Bay. They won 30 games in season 50. But here's what happened. In the following 3 seasons, in season 51, they won 24. And then 52, they won 16. And then in 53, they won 10. Then finally you get to season 54.
But like, why? Like, they switched GMs after 2 seasons? Like, doesn't it take like time to actually build up a team?
They had a GM for 4 or 5 seasons, I think, prior to this. You knew something was going to be really bad with this team, Hockey, when you look at the very first game. Season opener against the Calgary Dragons. Now, how familiar are you with the Calgary Dragons?
Not familiar at all.
They're kind of like the Yankees of the SHL. They've been really good they've been really good for like almost their entire existence. They have 8 Challenge Cups, which is the equivalent of a championship, and they're just consistently good.
They're the giants of the league.
Yeah, they are. Well, they're certainly one of them. And you knew things were going to be bad when, in the season opener, Tampa Bay lost 6-0.
Okay, yeah, that's bad.
That's not good for a season opener. No. And it unfortunately did not get better from there, because early in the season, I can't emphasize enough how early in the season this was. They had a stretch where, are you ready for this, Hockey?
Am I? I don't know.
They lost 11-0, 10-0, 6-0, 10-0 in 4 consecutive games.
Bro, at that point, if you win by like less than 3 goals, you're embarrassed.
It's kind of embarrassing. And we'll get to one of those in a second. But I do just want to comment that in that 4-game stretch, they conceded 37 goals and scored none. They were nearly giving up 10 goals a game for 4 games.
I can't even imagine if that happened in like a non-simulation league.
I mean, I can't even believe it's happening in a simulation league. Like that is a shocking level of that is a shocking lack of wins. But I am glad.
Shocking lack of goals. How do you not even score a goal?
If I go through some of these games. So the first game they lost, and I think I actually highlight one of these when I come back. So they lost like 11-0 to Hamilton. And if you look at like just the ratings, so an average game rating hockey in franchise hockey manager is like 60. They most of the team is below 60. In fact, most of the team is below 40 in most of those games. So they are just not performing. And I can explain to you why it is that they weren't scoring goals in just a second. But in order to do that, I need to tell you about their best loss.
Their best loss. Okay.
Yeah. So hockey. You played hockey growing up. Did you ever look at losses you had as like, that was a really good loss for us in this bad season?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
Okay.
There was times where we started out as the worst team in the league, and then we would lose like 1-0, 2-1 to like the best team in the league, and we would come out of it pretty happy because we know we could grow off of it.
Okay. That's I think that you might be able to say something like that here. So it is about the midway point of the season, Tampa Bay plays Calgary again. And this time, hockey, they lose 1-0.
Oh, that's tough.
And you look at this. This is the only, if I recall correctly, this is the only game they had the entire season where the goal deficit that they lost by was less than 2.
The only time.
Well, no. I'm seeing there's one other instance where they lost by 1 goal here, but this is the one that I really wanted to talk about.
At that point, you can't say, you know what, we're gonna grow off of that. At that point, you're just like, why couldn't we get 1 goal and convert it?
This is over. But I want to tell you, like, Tampa Bay played their hearts out in this game. Like, they actually, credit where credit is due, they really tried. In fact, Liam O'Callaghan, that's a player that's been around forever in the league. Like, he was around, he was around the very first time I made a character, like, 3 years ago. Like, he was in my draft class. And so he's been around for a long time. He posted a perfect 100 defensive game rating. And he is a defenseman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know, I need to tell you, I need you to know this stat. He played 30 minutes and 50 seconds on the ice.
Oh my gosh, that's like some Victor Hedman stuff right there.
Oh yeah, but are you ready for this? Blocked shots, 13.
Oh my gosh.
He took 13 blocked shots, and he's not the only one. Like, if you look at this whole team, here's the top 5 defensive game ratings. It goes 100, 95 from Jacob Hammer, 77 from Michael Fitted, 74 from Flash Gordon, and then 73 from Mika Salo. Like, they legitimately tried, and they lost 1-0. But despite the fact that Liam O'Callaghan had a perfect defensive game rating, he's not the best player on Tampa Bay.
Okay.
He is not. Do you know? So who then could be the best player on Tampa Bay?
Probably a forward.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Oh, their goalie.
Their goalie. Johannes Leitner.
Do you mean for that game?
Yes, for this game. Actually, he was their season MVP in general. Because we need to talk about Johannes Leitner for a moment.
Okay, so, I thought you meant like for the season, the best player.
Oh no, he was their best player for the season too. Don't get that wrong. Oh. But he was their best player in this game, even though Liam O'Callaghan had a perfect rating. Okay, this is Johannes Leitner's stat line. He had a 984 save percentage.
Oh my gosh!
Are you ready, hockey? On 64 shots.
Oh my god.
He had 63 saves on 64 shots.
That's got to be some kind of record there.
I don't even think this is the most saves he made.
In the season?
I'm gonna save that one. I'm saving it.
Oh my gosh.
But 63 saves and lost 1-0. Like, just imagine for a second.
Oh my god.
So, Johannes Leitner, this is really important to understand about Johannes. Johannes Leitner was the goalie of the year prior.
Okay.
He played
for
team? No. I think he played like 11 seasons for New England, and then they shipped him off to Tampa at the beginning of this season. And he retired immediately after this year.
Good call.
Fuck, man. It's kind of heartbreaking to see it. Just him getting absolutely crushed like this.
I think he made the right call.
But I don't think you've heard the most amazing stat of this game yet.
I I hope I haven't.
No, you
This is
haven't.
getting interesting.
The most amazing stat of this game, Hockey, is that the Tampa Bay Barracuda, despite giving up 64 shots on target, they only were able to shoot 6 shots
Oh my
against
god.
the opposing goalie.
Oh my god.
6
That
shots.
makes it so much worse.
They got outshot 64-6.
2 shots per period?
They had 1 shot in the first period, 4 shots in the second, and 1 shot in the third.
That's the easiest shutout I've ever
Yeah.
heard of.
Biz Nasty with a shutout on 6 shots again.
He was probably sweating after that one.
Boy was sweating after that. I would love to know how often it was even like in Calgary's zone for it
He
to
was
even
probably
be a word.
so bored.
Yeah, I
like-
mean, how often does a goalie get to be bored in a hockey game?
Not often.
That's really something. I mean, the question really at that point is if you didn't have a goaltender in net, could you still win?
I mean, they scored 7 goals, which was very possible.
Oh yes, it is. It is very, very possible. So I also want to mention that in addition to Liam O'Callahan's 13 blocked shots, when you add up all the other shots that Tampa blocked in the process, it was a total of 101 shots they allowed Calgary to shoot.
Oh my god. That's like 33, 34 per period.
Yes.
That's like basically just cycling in the zone and then just shooting every chance you get.
I mean, it's.
I want to know how many icings there were in that game.
I wish that was a stat. Like, I don't think you can find that. I doubt it's even there. Like, it is just. But to shoot 101 times in a hockey game, like, I mean, what is that pace per minute? So if you divide 101 by 60, they're shooting 1.68 shots per minute. So nearly 2 shots per minute. I mean, the whole entire game, effectively. I mean, that is a vicious pace to maintain. So to understand like how they even got to this point, you got to know about the season stats of Tampa. And I think this will help you to understand why they're so bad, Hockey.
Okay.
In 50 games, Hockey, the entire team scored 45 goals.
Oh my.
That's 9 goals per game.
No. 9 goals
Yeah,
per
I
game.
mean 0.9.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
0.9, yeah.
0.9. They
If
allowed.
my math is correct.
Yeah, that would have been quite the error. They allowed 309 goals in 50. That's 6.18 goals per game.
That's.
Yeah.
I don't
Go
even
ahead.
think that would be even possible in like a league.
Like, I don't even think did a team even do that in the 80s in the NHL when everybody
What,
was scoring goals
6
constantly?
goals per game? There's no way.
I mean, imagine you're the goaltender of the year, right? And your team ships you off to Tampa. And despite the fact that you're one of the best goalies in the league, you don't have 1 win in your last season of your career. Think about it. He did not have a single win in the last season of his career. Actually, that's not true. Fuck. I just now saw he played for Edmonton for 1 game, apparently, during this season. He allowed 1 goal on 18 shots against.
So he got a decent team and he lets 1 goal in.
And then he lost 28 of his next 38 games.
28 of his next 38. So he played more games for Edmonton?
Yeah, he played only 1. No. He played every game except for 1 with Tampa. But he lost 28 of the 38 games he appeared in. Now, I want you to think about that. How do you lose 28 games out of 38 and you don't have one win?
I don't know.
You are constantly coming in for relief.
He just doesn't have a night off.
He never has a night off. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. So he had in the year prior, his save percentage was .924. And in this year, his save percentage was .908. Which I got to say is really impressive when you're facing this many shots a night.
Oh, 100%. That's like, well, 900 save percentage would be like 3 goals on 30 shots. Right? So,
Yeah.
like it's basically, and that's like acceptable in like a normal league. It's not the best, but it's like, I'd say it's acceptable. And
So, do you know how many
like
shots Tampa are allowed?
the whole season?
Yeah.
I'm guessing on average 45.
45 per game.
Yeah, that's my
You
guess.
are so fucking wrong, hockey. You are so fucking wrong. 60.82 per game.
What?
60.82. 3,041 shots in 50 games.
I feel so bad.
For perspective, in real life, the Chicago Blackhawks allowed the most shots against this season, and in 70-ish games, they only allowed 2,400.
And what was the number again?
In 2,400.
No, for the
Tampa?
Yeah, for Tampa.
3,041.
Oh my gosh.
And in fact, in the entire 16-team league that is the SHL this season, only 2 other teams allowed even more than 2,000 shots over the course of the whole season.
Don't forget the Chicago Blackhawks play 30 more games as well.
Yeah, well, 20 more games because of the shortened season. But yeah, but only 2 other teams even allowed 2,000 or more shots across the entire season. And here's Tampa allowing 3,000.
3,000.
The shots for in hockey, this will break your heart. Shots for over the course of the whole season. What do you want to guess it is?
Like on average, like
on average per game, yeah.
11.
Almost right on the money, 12.28, which comes out to 614 shots in 50 games.
Oh my god, that's like 4 per period.
That is 4 per period. And just keep in mind, like, how many power plays they must have had to even get to that point.
I don't know, like 2 per game?
I don't know how many power plays they had exactly, but I'm just thinking, like, they had a lot of them.
Oh, yeah.
And yet they're only putting up 12 shots per game. So, in a season this bad, it's really hard to find the very worst game. But before I do that, I do want to talk about some of the highlights. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
The Tom Fiddler, in particular, is a player who plays on Tampa Bay. He still plays for them. And he's a two-way center. He's primarily a playmaker and a defensive center, and he's a high-effort player. He was actually pretty good this year, despite the fact that he only scored 1 goal. It wasn't his fault.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He had here, let me look up the stats real quick. He had what?
He wasn't injured?
There are no injuries in the league.
Oh, okay.
No, he scored 1 goal and had 10 assists in 45 games. He's just like a really new player, but like he's very active on the site. He's very active like across everywhere that you can see. And his signature is actually an advertisement of this season. And I bring him up because in the very worst game of the season, at least in my opinion, you could You could argue about what the very worst is, but in my opinion, the worst game of the season is at the very end against the Hamilton Steelhawks when they lost 12-1.
That's almost like the 11-0.
It is.
I would almost call the 11-0 worse.
Oh, but hockey. You've not heard the stats of this game yet. You've not heard the stats of this game.
Okay.
So Tom Fiddler in this game, like if you look at it, this is the lone standout player on Tampa. He had a defensive game rating of 78 as a center. The next best was 50. His overall game rating was a 71, and only 5 other players were above 50. The vast majority were below 50. And I feel like I've got to point out a player here. This guy, a right defenseman named Mika Salo. Game rating of 20, offensive game rating of 43.
Oh no.
Defensive game rating of 1.
Oh my god.
1.
Dude, what does he just do? Just sit in the bottom corner and watch?
Let me give you some. Let me clash against this. Tom Fiddler, a center. He was on the ice for 26 minutes. He had. Keep in mind, hockey. What was the score in this game?
Was this the 12-1?
12-1. So it means there was 12 goals scored against Tampa. In the 26 minutes while he was on the ice, his plus minus was -1.
Oh, I thought he had his defensive rating of 1.
No, that was the right defenseman. I'm going back to Tom Fiddler. I want to contrast the two players. Okay. So Tom Fiddler, the center, 26 minutes, -1 in a 12-1 game while he was out there on the ice.
That's very impressive.
That's very, very impressive. Are you ready to be very, very unimpressed?
Yes.
Mika Salo, defensive game rating 1, -6 in 21 minutes.
Oh. 21. It's on the coach at that point. Like, just bench
him. Just take him out. Yeah, like if that was a thing you could do in the game, like just while it's going on, bench them.
Yeah. Just you're not going on anymore.
You can't like bench somebody during a game in simulation. To be fair.
Yeah.
Like with how it works. But that would be like one of those things where like there should be like AI where it's like where the defensive game rating falls below 10, you gotta take the player out. Actually, if it falls below 20, you gotta take him out. In which case Tampa would have had to take 2 players out that game.
Oh, so Salo didn't even have the worst rating?
No, he had the worst defensive game rating.
Yeah, but in total he had 20. And you said 2 people got below 20.
Oh no, 2 people had below 20 as far as defensive game rating. But okay. Salo was the only one at 20. Johnny Pate was at 27. And if you look at I'm guessing this is the 4th line here. The 4th line went -6, -6, and -6. And then I'm going to guess Mika's partner. I don't know who Mika's partner is of these bunch, but I just see him at -6, and I find it kind of hilarious.
Wow.
So they lose very, very badly. Do you want to guess how many shots Hamilton had?
In a 12-1 game?
Yeah.
It's gotta be like, I would say it's above 12 because they got a goal, but I know it wouldn't be that if this is their worst game of the season.
No, so, how many shots did Hamilton have, not Tampa?
Oh, I'll go 67.
Wrong. The number...
It was a hard guess.
The number, 96.
Bro. How is that even? What?
Yeah, 96 shots against.
What is that? Like a shot every 45 seconds? 30 seconds?
It's almost the exact same as the one we just calculated. It's roughly 2 shots per minute. It's roughly 1.68 shots per minute, or let's call it 1 3/5. But the difference is in that last game we talked about where that happened, at least a bunch of them were blocked. And in this game, we're just talking about the ones that were on target. I think if you added all the blocked shots up, you're like in 120 territory with this game.
Well, so 2 shots a minute. That's absolutely ridiculous.
It was roughly 2 shots a minute, yeah. So this was what they did from period to period. 33 shots in the first. 31 shots in the second. 32 shots in the third. Ioannis got pulled after he allowed 6 goals.
When was how far through the game was that?
I'm gonna guess it's about halfway through. Like, I think it's almost exactly halfway through. And he had a save percentage of .885, and he allowed 6 goals.
All right. Well, when you have that many shots,
that's kind of understandable.
You're getting tired out so easily.
Yeah, he faced 52 shots against in 36 minutes.
Oh my god.
Then they sent in the backup, Tobias Lindemann, who
imagine if being a goalie in that season. Here we go again.
Every night my legacy is tarnished. Every night my name is weaker. So
you just don't care at a certain point.
Yeah, I mean, I put it this way. Tampa took the goalie of the year, and in 1 year he was out of the league. Like, that's like, just think about it that way. Like,
it's not even like his fault. That's the worst part.
It really isn't. It's kind of crushing. Tobias Lindemann, the backup, went in, and in 23 minutes faced 44 shots, giving up 6.
So it's not as good, but I still don't blame the goalies.
I still don't blame them either. You know what though? You know what goalie you can laugh at?
The other goalie?
Jesus Christ.
Christ. Okay.
Okay. So the reason why is because, do you know how many shots Tampa had? You want to know how many shots?
6 is my guess.
9.
9 shots and he let in a goal.
He let in a goal. He had 8 saves on 9 shots.
So you're telling me he had near the same save percentage as the first
goal? Oh no! Yeah. I didn't even think about it. It's a difference of 0.004.
Oh.
Between him and Johannes Leitner.
Oh my god.
That's the tough part of it. Like, that is absolutely vicious.
I mean, but when you win 12-1, it's not going to phase you.
No? When you give up a goal to a team that is averaging that only has 40 goals in a season, that not get in your head a little bit? Like, they can't score. Come on now.
Yeah, I agree. 45 goals on the season.
So Dale Miller, he had 4 goals in this game. Flacco Lagerfield had 2 goals and 2 assists. Robert Phelps had 2 goals and an assist. Gabriel Johnson had a goal and 3 assists. Aaron Wilson had a goal and 3 assists. I drafted him in my fantasy league. Newt Neuterson just at 1 goal. Don't know why I mentioned him. And then Hugh Jazz had 1 goal and 4 assists. I do just want to say, I'm sorry, what? Go ahead.
How many 5-point games is that? 5-point players. That's pretty nice.
You got 1 4-point player, 1 4-point player, 1 4-point. That's 3, 4, 4 4-point players, 1 5-point player. I think this is how Flacker Lagerfield ended up getting 84 points in a season. Was just when he was playing Tampa, he just went all out. I mean, it's a pretty remarkable season.
Imagine that, just getting like 20 points on like 4 games against them in the season.
That's the kind of thing you can do when you play Tampa. It really is kind of art how they got to this point of being like this bad. I should bring up some of the overall stats of Tampa as far as offense goes. So here are the point leaders. We have Michael Fitted with 25 points in 50 games. So that's the NHL equivalent of 41 points in a season.
Okay.
He had 13 goals and 12 assists. So 13 goals for 13 goals and 50. I think that's close to like 25 or 24 goals. So that's actually not too bad. Not too bad. Second place in goals, though. Actually, let me go second place in points. Second place in points is 12. And there's 3 players tied for 12. Third place is our boy Tom Fiddler with 11. And then nobody else has 10 or greater. In fact,
what was the first place again?
25.
So he had 25 of their 45 goals?
No, he had 13 of their 45 goals. I'm just saying he had 25 points.
Oh, okay.
So, if you look,
having a third of your team's goals.
I mean, it's a little painful, is it? Unless you're Wayne Gretzky, that just shouldn't be acceptable. Even then, did Wayne Gretzky scored like 9? What did Wayne Gretzky score in a year? Like 92 or something?
I know he got 200 points, but
I think he scored like 92 in a year one year, and I don't know if that came out to a third. They do win.
They win.
Well, I don't think he literally had a third of their goals. Those teams were so stacked.
Yeah.
I want to go over some of the other players though here. Johnny Pate, right? Mm-hmm. Played 50 games. He had 1 point in 50.
Wow.
That's like 1 assist in 50.
Send him down to the minors.
Down to the J again.
Yeah.
He needs to go back to the J. Yeah, I think that covers about most of the core of the Tampa situation. The other really the fascinating thing about Tampa is just how garbage they were. And I think what's really interesting is how they got there. Which is why when we come back, we're going to talk to the GM of this team.
Okay. That sounds good. I'm very interested. I'm hooked.
Now we are being joined by the GM of the season 54 Tampa Bay Barracuda, MCP. What's going on, MCP?
It's going pretty good.
So. Right on. Now, season 54 was quite interesting because you were the second GM to take over that franchise as Tampa. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yep.
Yep. They had that franchise in particular had a long history of cycling through GMs, really going back to when they were the Seattle Riot.
That's correct.
Kind of what led them into being a lot of precarious situations.
Yep, I'm more than aware of that history. Trust me.
So when you took over the team, did you think that it was going to start to go south, or did you think it was gonna it was just like a down year when you got there?
So when I applied for the Tampa Bay position at first, we still had a good chunk of the core that was part of the season 50 team that went to the Challenge Cup finals. But yeah, I had the idea that we would be retaining most of our valuable players.
Mm-hmm.
That off season, we lost a lot of people. So it didn't, until that happened, I never really thought of a retool as much. But yeah, it just ended up being an unfortunate situation, all things considered, I would say.
Did you have any idea that you were going to lose those players?
It was kind of at the back of my mind a tiny bit, but not really. I mean, for example, Austin Romick, he tested free agency that season. And, I just wasn't really sure what was really going to happen. Next thing I know, he got offered a $10 million contract with Manhattan, and that kind of sealed that. But at the end of the day, what happened. I was going to push forward.
So what was the plan after you lost all those guys to free agency?
It was a retool, basically. I think one of the first big moves I did in terms of that was training Flacco Lagerfield to Hamilton to just get some picks. But, I mean, other than that, there really wasn't a whole lot that I can remember. I think trading Kristaps Ball as well. But, I mean, I think I only traded like 2 players at most, maybe 3. I forget at this point. It's been so long.
No, like I'm very, very new to these like simulators, so it's interesting to see like how the new engines like affect like everyone on this website's like strategies and how they organize their team.
I would say that there are a lot of people looking to learning FHM. I knew that I had some people that were FHM fluent, fitted, for example. I would say, but they did. I think the thing that really threw GMs for a loop was kind of how people looked at strategy, I mean it. I think it just really just threw a bunch of GMs for a loop, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when that season got started, so as you'd already mentioned that you'd been trading for assets prior to the start of the season 54, but when the season got started, did you have any inkling that it might be as bad as it was going to end up being?
Yeah, pretty much. But but no. I mean, my mindset at the time was, I mean, we're in a rebuilding mode. We just gotta keep that in mind.
Yeah.
And honestly, I just want to thank just the people on that team. They knew what they were getting into. I just appreciate them for sticking their entire way through, I would say. But
Yeah, absolutely.
They were all pretty active, like.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them, like Premier Bromanov, Fitted, Rankle. I mean, those 3 are kind of the main guys I usually try to think about. But
Birkenau hockey is Tom Fiddler.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
The guy we were talking about earlier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. A bunch of these guys who are the kind of our season 48 crew. I mean, they've been kind of at the forefront of kind of this rebuild, I would say, and they've been a big help for me, I would have to say.
Mm-hmm. And when you traded your own character to New Orleans, if I recall correctly, that must have put you in a really interesting situation Because on one hand, you're playing for a team that's competing for a championship, and I believe they did win that.
Yep, they did.
And on the other hand, you're managing a team that is kind of in free fall. What is it like dealing with those two different locker rooms at the same time?
I mean, I wouldn't say it's. I wouldn't say it was. I mean, it was a bit like living in two worlds, but at the same time, I knew where I wanted to take the team, and at the same time, it just. Man, this is. I mean, that's a good question, but I mean, I was able to focus on both worlds, I would say, but I mean, that was also the season I got canned, but that's probably a topic coming up soon. But yeah,
What was you mentioned like what was the locker room in New Orleans compared to Tampa Bay? Like, did you manage it different, like based on like seeing like what it is to be a winning team and comparing it to like the team that you're trying to rebuild?
I wouldn't say so, but at the same time, I'm also my first junior team back in. Yeah, okay. Let me start over on that. I mean, looking at the New Orleans locker room, I mean, it was fairly active, I would say. But and I mean, what GM wouldn't want to have a locker room like that is generally how I thought about that. So, I mean, of course, it was going to be something I wanted to achieve, but it wasn't kind of on my forefront when I was part of the New Orleans locker room. I mean, I've seen locker rooms that were hyperactive, like the current Berserker locker room, I would say. But I mean, it's a good view into it, I would say, but I wouldn't say it would directly influence me, I would say.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Augie.
No, I was just agreeing with him. You go ahead.
Yeah, I had some questions about, the character of like Tom Fiddler. He was in his second SHL season, I think, at the time, and he was very much a prospect. And as you kind of said, everybody who was getting into that season knew what they were kind of getting in for. What was your long-term plan with Tom Fiddler and everything around that? Because it seems like he actually really enjoys being part of the Tampa organization, considering like he advertises the season 54 in his signature. Like, he must have some level of pride in that organization.
I mean, he does. I mean, him and Fiddler are kind of him and Fitted are basically the two big proponents of that team. And I gotta say, I love that about them. Even now after I handed off the baton to Trello and Dwight, or I should say HO handed that baton to him. But, I mean, at the same time, it's amazing that they're just giving their all for this team. And they're excited for the future. They're excited for the present. They're just amazing people to have in that locker room, especially during this time. I mean, it's mostly prospects and such in the locker room at the current moment. But, I mean, the fact that they haven't given up on this team is, I think, a big testament to their character. And it's been amazing, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I think that organization really has something with those guys. The character of Tom Fiddler in particular is one that caught my eye, because I actually went through a lot of the games from this season, and there was one game in particular. It was against Hamilton, where the team had lost 12-1.
Yeah,
and in Tom's 26 minutes on the ice, he only had a plus minus of -1, and he was on the ice for basically half the game. So I mean, it seems like he's a really good two-way forward, and he was still getting like a decent amount of assists that year. And same with Michael Fitted, because Michael Fitted had 13 goals when the next highest was 7. It seems like there were those guys were able to still get some kind of production in, even in that desperate situation.
Yeah, and honestly, I have to give all that credit to Mr. Fitted himself. Dude has, I think, thousands of hours in FHM, and the fact that he's able to get anything out of that team was a miracle, I would say.
Now, I'm not too familiar with him. The guy who plays Michael Fitted, is he working to be a GM at some point then? Do you think?
He hasn't really expressed wanting to be a GM, but I mean,
that sounds like very valuable information.
I mean, that's why I brought him on as my coach. I mean, you don't just pass up someone with that much FHM experience, especially during a transition period like this.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, for me, it was a no-brainer move on that part.
And I think it's really exciting that he is committed to Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just saying, yeah. I absolutely agree with the statement.
I do want to say, though, one player in particular who I thought had a really good season that year, and I think most people would agree. It's just that obviously the team around him was kind of a big problem for him, and that was Johannes Leitner, if I'm pronouncing that right. He was he was an incredible goalie. I mean, he'd won the goaltender of the year award the year prior, if I recall correctly.
I forget, but we'll say yeah.
Yeah. Well, so you acquired him for New England, from New England.
Yep.
Did you have any inkling that he might retire after that season?
Initially, no, but yeah, I did catch wind that he was looking to retire and recreate with a couple of buddies that he wanted to play with. But even after that, I was just glad that he liked to stay with the team, at least for a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it seems like it would be easy to get down, and it seems like, because he's still active on the site to this day, that he clearly didn't let himself get too down about it, because he went from a 924 save percentage the year prior to 906, which I think is really impressive when you face nearly 3,000 shots.
Yeah, I would say so.
Now, what exactly happened when you wanted to trade him to Edmonton? Like what went down there?
Okay, so basically, I think this was the night after my second punishment thread.
Yeah.
Or I think it was actually maybe a few nights later. So basically, I was looking to just kind of refocus myself on the job. So, I did have a co-GM lined up to hire, I was, trying to get GM chat just kind of bumping, and then I get I think it was from Tommy, I think it might have been Keegan, either way, or both of them might have happened, I don't know. And, they inquired about Leitner, and I said, you know what, that might be a good place for him to go, for his last season, and, get a last chance for the cup. So, I said, you know what, sure, I'll go for it. But the thing was, they did not have cap space, so they would need me to retain contract money.
Mm-hmm.
Thing was, I already had 3 contracts being retained, and the max in the SHL to retain is 2. So that got caught pretty quickly after that, and because of all that, I got canned the next day, I would say. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just was not a good situation.
It was, very much an accident, though.
I would say so, but at the same time, I was not paying attention to that. The fact that there were already 3 contracts that that were retained and I didn't notice. It was bad.
So Tampa won 8 games last year, and
Yeah.
I know you're no longer the GM of the team, but
Yeah.
where do you think that the team is going now?
I mean, Trella, when he got the job, and I think everyone in that GM chat knew that they wanted to continue where I left off. They knew that we were going to full on rebuild, and they just fell into that really nicely, I would say. They did put in a bit more effort into, trying to get some better inactives and trying to pursue some semi-active free agents and all that stuff. So, I mean, they're definitely doing, I would say, a better job than I did during my time there, I would say. I mean,
Do you think they're committed long term to the future of the organization?
they absolutely are.
Because that's what that franchise really needs.
It is. And, both Trell and Dwight know that that's where we need to go. And they are following that to a T. They are doing a tremendous job, I would say.
Now, I know that because season 54 was such an incredible kind of achievement in a way, even if not the one people really strive for. How do you feel about it? When people kind of look back on it and kind of talk about the humorous nature of how bad the team was.
When I think about that team, I mean, it's hard to not think about, what I was doing during that time in terms of, I just wasn't focused that season, I would say. That was the season I got fired. I got canned. That was the same thing. But, I was thinking back to, how much effort I truly put into that team. And yeah, to be honest, I didn't put a whole lot of effort into that team. And, well, I mean, I think that was, it was very indicative of kind of how my GM career, I think at the end of the day, was. But,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. I was kind of
would you? So you're saying that if you kind of look back on it, do you feel like there was some kind of your heart wasn't fully into it at some time prior to season 54? Is that what you're saying?
Or even sometime during it. I mean, to be honest, I don't know. I mean, I knew my heart wanted to, help the team out, but I think prior to that start, it just ended up being completely. I felt like I was just lost in terms of, what my true intentions were about the team, I would say. But I mean, mentally, I knew the direction I wanted to take the team, but at the same time, I just didn't know the physical effort I was wanting to put in, and it just ended up going complete, pretty much.
Would it be fair to say then that you became GM of Tampa perhaps because you really loved the team, but not because you really wanted to be a GM?
When I got the job, I wanted to be the GM of that franchise. I wanted to continue on what JSS had been doing those past few seasons. But it's a big thing, I would say. That's season 54. Around that time, I had gotten finished with, final stuff for my second semester in college. And, I was going in with that mindset being like, you know what, now that school's over, I can fully put my time into it. And then it just didn't happen for some reason. It just felt flat. I don't know what it was at the end of the day, but it just wasn't completely there.
your heart just really wasn't into it by the time you even got to season 54. And
I mean, truthfully, I don't even know at this point. I'm just looking back on it. Like, did I have that thing? Even though I thought I did. I mean, it's a mess at this point in my time, and I'm trying to forget. I'm trying to forget about it at this point, I would say.
Well, I mean, the thing is that's interesting about it is that season's always going to have a legacy.
It is.
Because, people will always look back on, and the big thing about Franchise Hockey Manager with the SHL now versus when it was on Simon T is that when the game was on the Simon T Hockey Simulator, it was much more difficult to go back and look at all the previous records of every team and kind of observe how everything was changing over time, because everything was disconnected by different pages, because everything was on a separate individual index page. But now that everything is in Franchise Hockey Manager, in 10, 20, 30 seasons, everything's going to be connected where people will be able to go look back and be able to kind of see this stuff. And I think that people will look back at season 54 as, kind of one of the more remarkable things that's ever happened, because it is so shocking to actually see it. And I guess what I'm asking is, I guess, how do you feel about the legacy of it?
In terms of the historical sense, I think it's a good lesson to show that it's not especially hard to be a tanking team in FHM. Being a successful team, I think it's going to be significantly harder to do so, especially with TPE totals rising up more and more. It really showing a preference for more active players. And the fact that, that team didn't really have the TPE to match against, say, like Hamilton or Buffalo, I think it was a statement that, TPE is king in this new simulation.
All right. I mean, it is kind of, I guess, undeniable in that regard. I think that teams can still succeed even if they're not necessarily in the top of the TPE bracket, as long as they're at least in the hunt. Like if they're in the general range. But I think if you don't have the TPE anywhere close to like what that range is to be like a top tier team, that's when I think it can seem a little more hopeless. Would that be fair to say?
I would say that I think there's at least 3 tiers of teams. There are teams that have, have relatively low TPE, and they're not in the hunt for anything. The in the hunt people have, decent amount of TPE, and I would say that, and yeah, never mind that. I mean, the teams with decent TPE, they can make good splashes, but when you compare that to the teams that just have uber active players that have just these systems of players that are just constantly just earning TPE, it's going to be really hard to break into that group, I would say. And that group is what I would consider the true top contenders of the league.
Well, MCP, I think that answers just about all the questions we had.
All right.
I'm really glad you came on. I really, really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.